Hi there, thank you for tuning in. I don't know if you know that movie by Sergio Leone, I think it is, called The Good, the Bad and the Ugly. It's a spaghetti western. Music by Morricone. No? Ring a bell? So Clint Eastwood is the good guy, and he's looking at the ugly guy towards the end of the movie, and he says something like this: there are two kinds of people in this world, those with loaded guns and those who dig. Then he points his gun to the ugly guy and says, you dig. And I think the distinction, between two kinds of people in this world, that is what I also see in the photo community when it comes to lenses. There are those who absolutely insist that a lens has to be made of metal and glass, made in Japan, very few elements, only 5 to 7 or so, almost no coating. It's almost as if the more flare the lens has, the better. So much that, Stanley Kubrick, he says, whoa, it's too much, but they like it like that. And of course, if it can be a manual focus lens, then it's even better. Of course, I'm exaggerating. I'm just saying that there are some very strong opinions about what a lens should be like, how engaging it is to shoot with, and all of these things. And that seems to be one camp. The other camp is perhaps more relaxed, more looking at getting the job done, not so worried about the shooting experience. The reason why I mention this is that it seems to me like there are these two groups of photographers, and if you belong to the first group that I mentioned, you will probably hate this lens because it is made in Taiwan. It's all plastic. It has tons of elements, tons of coating, and tons of technology. So you will probably say, wrinkle your nose and say, that lens is not for me. And that's fine. No, I have no problem with that. So the point is not that one camp is better than the other. I just think that if you belong to one camp, you shouldn't watch videos or reviews addressed at the other camp and vice versa. And this is not a review, but I will say it is a video about a lens that clearly will make AI, AIS, and maybe even AF and AFD shooters say that's a bad lens. So with that distinction made, I hope you will respect that this lens is not designed to compete with AI or AIS lenses at all. It's just a very good modern lens. If you have followed this channel, you will know that I've done a fair share of reviews, and I actually don't want to do a review of this lens because there are so many good people who have reviewed this lens already. My favorite is Christopher Frost. I will post a link to him up here, and he has done a really good review, and the takeaway from that review is this is an amazing lens. It's highly recommended. It's super sharp, even at a 45 megapixel camera. He uses the Z-7 for the test, and he says that you should remember to buy it together with your camera, because then you get a good rebate. Otherwise, it is massively overpriced if you buy it standalone. And I agree, you get really a good discount if you buy it together with your camera. And that's also why they call it a kit lens. But I'm actually not sure that it is a kit lens. In my mind, it's a little too good to be a kit lens. But, that's just me. Let me just show you that. Can you see that? That's a heron. Isn't that a beauty? Wow. Yeah, it was so quiet. Yeah, now it took off. Such a beauty. I hope you saw that. Relative to that, I guess you could say I have a face that's good for radio. Man, that was beautiful. Wow. Okay, where was I? I just need to consult my notes. I'll be back. So normally Christopher, he covers also coma and chromatic aberration, but for reasons beyond me, that hasn't been covered in his review of this lens. So we're into personal preference territory here, and coma to me is not important because I think it mostly affects your image if you shoot at night and you have something in the corners, strong light in the corners, that is really important to you. That's not my thing. But chromatic aberration, I shoot a lot into the sun, and if you have chromatic aberration, I have to do a lot of work in post, and it is really annoying. Yeah, I would just like it to be fixed or done when it's in camera, right? So if I can avoid chromatic aberration, that is number one. And my 1.8G, the 50mm, has so much that I can actually see it in the viewfinder, and that's bad. It's really bad. So I'm hoping this one is doing better, and I will show you a little lab test. I promise you in this video it will be the only lab test that I will do. Otherwise I think Christopher and other reviewers have done an excellent job reviewing this lens. So while I talk here, I just want to show you this beautiful reflection. Maybe you can also hear the birds. So here we are in Lightroom with the lens to the left and then the 1.8G, the 50mm to the right. And I've shot these two pictures with a flash TTL, overexposed 2 stops, just to underline the issue here, and then I have edited it back to be okay exposed. And if you look here, you can clearly see the 50mm 1.8G to the right has significantly more aberrations, both green and purple. There is a little bit of aberration here on the 24-70, the yellow ones, but relative to what you see on the 50mm to the right, this is next to nothing. So I would say that the aberrations are much better controlled in this lens here, and yeah, I think my 50mm 1.8G is going back because this is not acceptable. One of the really nice things about this lens is that the autofocus is super fast and super silent. It's probably some of the best I've ever tried with Nikon. I should say this is my first lens for the Z-mount, full frame that is, but it is, I'm impressed. Let me just show you here. I'm recording a video now, and I'm just flip-flopping back and forth between a tree and something in the distance, and you can see how fast it is. It is really a true pleasure. And it doesn't say anything. It doesn't talk back. It just does exactly what you ask it to. Very fast and very silent. It is a pleasure. Thank you, Nikon. Another thing I really enjoy about this lens is the minimum focus distance. It's, I believe, 38 centimeters, but when you zoom in to 70 millimeters and you count from where the sensor sits, then 38 centimeters actually is quite close to the front of the glass. And yesterday I was doing some shooting where often I do product shoots for my blog. And I used this lens. Normally I would use my Tokina 100mm on the Nikon D750, but here I used this one. And I was not planning to use this lens for that kind of work at all, but it just delivered. Let me just show you how close I can get to here before the focus system gives in. Now here it talks back and says I won't do it, but here I get a green confirmation dot. So this close, can you see this? I hope you can see it. I'm actually from the front of the glass extremely close to my subject. This is just a silly branch. Of course we are into personal preference territory here, but if minimum focus distance is important to you, then this one delivers. I was really surprised in a good way that it can go this close to the subjects, and I look forward for using this lens for my product shoots going forward. So what about distortion, both barrel and pincushion? Well, this lens has both of them and lots of it. I think though that this is a deliberate design by Nikon. I think they have said to themselves, well, we can fix that in the camera's internal post-processing. So we actually don't we actually don't care that we have all this distortion. And if you see an unedited image, a raw image where sort of the compensation for the distortion has been switched off, you will see this one really has a lot of distortion going on. Back in the days with film, this was a big issue, right? Because you couldn't fix it. I mean, once the image sat on your film, and then I mean that was it. But today you can fix it in so many ways digitally, and I think that's what the engineers at Nikon has said. Why worry about distortion when we can fix it in post? And so they did. So if you're thinking, well, this lens has really bad distortion, ask yourself if that is an issue for you, and if you're not a happy camper with the digital processing that your camera, together with Lightroom, I think it is, does so well for you. So my conclusion is, it's not important for me. Then there's the question of this being the f4. Why didn't you go for the f2.8, Frederick? Well, what can I think of? Well, weight, of course. It's a much more heavy lens than the f4. And as I'm shooting with the Z6 that has vibration reduction, then maybe I don't really need to go that fast. I have plenty of light with f4. And then you could say, well, what about bokeh then? You won't get bokeh as nicely as you would with a 2.8 or 1.8 or 1.4, even 1.2. I agree. But then I will pull out some of my fast primes if I need that. And you can always get good bokeh if you move close to your subject and have lots of distance to the background, right? So, yeah. No, you won't get creamy, sweet bokeh with this lens. You will get okay bokeh. But if you are really into the bokeh game, clearly this lens is not for you. So what about alternatives? Well, of course there is the primes that is the alternatives, right? You can buy 24, 28, 35, 50, all of that. But there also is an alternative in the sense that Nikon has lenses that have longer range. I think they go from, is it 28 to something like 105? I'm not sure. I think there's also one that goes to 200. So if you want to have a lens that fits or covers more focal ranges, maybe this is not the lens for you. The reason why I chose this one is that it, if you ever heard of the Holy Trinity, in terms of lenses, that is the Nikon Holy Trinity, the 24 to 70 is the second, and then I actually have the 70 to 200, which is the third, and then in the bottom you have the 12 to 24, right? That's sort of the Holy Trinity, and in that lineup, this one fits my current portfolio of lenses very, very well. But I would ask you to look into alternatives. If you need more range than 70, there are options that cover almost this range and then some more, right? So be sure to look into those alternatives if this one is on your shortlist. When I did my first lens reviews, I got a lot of flair because there were no sample pictures in them, and I just want to make sure I don't get that criticism once again. So I will show you some sample images here, and I could take one, for instance, here at 24 millimeters, and then zoom in at 270. So over here at Flickr, I've made an album with some sample images, and if we just open one of the pictures here, you can see this is the 2 sample pictures I used to illustrate the chromatic aberration, and here's just a close-up, and here are the 2 images that show the difference between 24 and 70. And if you want to see which is which, the metrics are down here, and I get many questions about the metrics, what aperture, what shutter speed, and so on. You can find all of that down here below the image. So all the details are in there for you. Another close-up, here's silhouette, a reflection, some birds in flight, and here the image I showed you previously regarding the bokeh. Here again, some birds in flight. I want to mention that if you like to shoot with focus stacking, and this is such an example here, you can see if I go close, I hope you don't get seasick watching this, but over here you can see that the bark on the birch tree is very, very sharp, and so is everything here. And if you go to the background over here, you see the same. And that is done using focus stacking, where I've taken several images and stacked them into one. And this lens has almost no focus breathing, meaning that it doesn't change the focal length when you focus. And that is very useful when you do this focus stacking, because otherwise it can be very difficult to put the images together. If you hear people say that focus breathing is only important for videographers, say I beg to differ, because if you want to make an image like this one, where you stack images together, you need a lens that has no or very little focus breathing, and this one does. So again, well done, Nikon. If you're curious what 24-70 can actually do for you, I would recommend you to visit Nikon's homepage. They have something called a lens simulator, and it's a lighthouse in the distance, and you can see how close you can get to that. It's super useful if you're worried that the 70 perhaps may not be long enough for you, or 24 may not be wide enough for you. So give that a try. Definitely worth a visit before you invest. So there you have it. That's my non-review here. I hope it was useful, and it would be great if you found this useful, because it's so much more fun to make a review or a non-review like this one, rather than sitting and testing the lens at the different focal lengths and looking at test charts and so on. I mean, if you consult the MTF charts and a few reviews, you will clearly see this lens is amazing in many, many ways in terms of sharpness, especially center sharpness, right? So I would say, if you are in the market for this focal range, and you're considering to buy a Z series lens, this lens should definitely be on your short list. But of course, it's all up to you. I hope that this little non-review has been useful information for you, and then you will also visit Christopher's review of the lens to get more insight to the actual performance of the lens. And with that, as always, happy shooting. Take care. Bye bye.